Hello, my friends. I am so excited for today's interview. Today we have Lydia Alabach, and she is with Transforming Minds Education. So, Lydia is a 5-year teacher going on her 6th year. She's K through 12 licensed, and she's doing a little bit different route. Like us homeschooling parents, instead of working in the school system, she exclusively works with homeschoolers, with curriculum enhancement and in-home teaching. And she really wants to help homeschooling parents become the best that they can possibly be, as well as help their families really excel and do awesome. So super excited to have you, Lydia. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Janae. I'm super excited for our conversation today.
So me too, me too. So let's get started. So tell how you started this journey, right? Let's go back because you do have you were in elementary education and early childhood. So let's start there.
Absolutely. So I went to college for elementary and early childhood education, like you said, and began in the third grade classroom in a public school. And so that was a very unique experience where I was at in Oklahoma. It's actually the highest trauma state in the US. And so we had a very unique style of teaching and learning how to not just educate the mind of a child, but really having to reach them on a heart level and emotional level. So that was a very refining season for me, learning how to do that and to work through the emotion of trauma and the expression of emotion that comes from trauma in an education setting, but really got to watch a lot of my students find belonging and build community and find purpose throughout their education, which was really incredible. And then around that time, I found out I was going to be moving to Colorado and knew I was transitioning out of the classroom, but I wasn't really sure what that was going to look like. And so when I moved here, it was October 2020, which is right in the middle of
Middle of
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, exciting times. And so when I first got here, it was just getting settled in. But that next semester, I ended up subbing in one of the districts here locally. And it was just a very healing education experience. Lots of really healthy families. And so that engagement with the students was just different than what I had come out of. So it was a very healing journey for me. And I actually thought I was going to go back into the classroom, got my license transferred. And then when I ended up applying at the school that I had long-term subbed at, ended up not getting the position. But honestly, it was the best no I've ever received, especially because that's led me to where I am now. So I started praying and I was like, okay, God, like what now? And he just told me, I have something better. I was like, okay. And around that time, I began getting different clientele for just tutoring in the home and supporting kids with specific subjects, different grade levels. And then along that journey, became a brain trainer through Learning RX, which is an amazing company that really focuses on the cognitive skills of students. And that's like our memory, our attention, visual processing, really what causes our brain function to be strong so that we can grow academically and excel in that area. So has been a unique journey being a part of that as well, learning a different side of the brain. And then in April of 2021, I got a message from a family who was homeschooling and just wanted support with developing curriculum and really being able to provide that quality in-home experience for a student who was very advanced and really was bored out of his mind in the school system. And so I started working in that home and with their family and just really got to hear their mission and their vision and began to implement that into the education curriculum that I was developing for him. So I've been with them for a year and a half now. And at the end of last year, I just knew in my heart that it was time to actually take this experience in home and turn it into something bigger. And so that's when I started Transforming Minds Education. which is unique because that name actually comes from my alma mater. At the college I went to was Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the College of Education had a motto that said, "Transforming educators, transforming society, the future ahead, a transformed generation." And that's based off of Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so when the idea came, it was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense because this is my like history with education and my background and training. And so I just stepped into it. A lot of people started coming into my life to really help develop the business and start a business and learning, building systems and all of that side of things. And so within a couple, after I launched it in April this year, over the summer, I went from one family to multiple families.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Oh, wow, like this is growing really fast. And so just getting to really start building pillars, like what services do I really provide? So this summer, I was with a group coaching program that really helps me identify four major pillars of my business. The first pillar is all about family, mission, and vision. So this is where I connect with the families for 1.5 to 2 hours and just listen to why a family wants to homeschool, why they're being brought out of the school systems, that like education history of their children, and what they want their education to supplement in their family goals in life. That leads into the assessment pillar, or the instruction pillar, sorry. And that begins with an assessment, me just making sure I know where the students are at academically, specifically with reading, spelling, and with math concepts. That helps me to get an idea of what that student is like masterful at in the areas where we can really identify those growth points and expansion in their learning. And then from that, the families that want to continue working with me in that curriculum development, I help create the plan to build these structures for how we can help that student grow, but also in such a way that it activates their gifts. Every child has a gift and or multiple gifts where they're just strong in, whether it's technology or construction, writing, whatever that might be. Like being able to find that child's, like, I call it their man pajama,
I love
that they
it.
just love. It just really helps like connect them to their currency. And so learning doesn't have to be something that's just like, oh, I hate this, I don't like this anymore, but very much in the place of like, no, you can apply your learning in your areas of interest. And so now it's purposeful, meaningful, and there's choice involved, which helps the child.
Which I have to say, I love because that doesn't happen in the school system. It's like, this is what you get in the end, like, eat it. So I love that. I love that you integrate what they love because I think that's so important. Anyway, keep going.
Yes, absolutely. And to watch them like really grow and thrive in those areas is amazing. So that's a lot of the curriculum development and creation side. So for the families where I actually teach in home, I develop most of their curriculum and then go and teach it with the children and then support the families with their data collection, which I'll get to in a moment. But some families like to actually purchase curriculum. So just helping them find which ones really fit their the whatever subjects they want me to work on with them.
Yeah.
And so in that case, like I'll just help them find the right curriculum for them. And then either the families will teach that, or if there's some, I have a family in high school, for example, I wasn't certified in high school. So I'm like, definitely resource out for that one. But then help guide the student through the curriculum, but enhance it again to really meet like them at their level and in their point of interest. So it's like enhance it and modification of the curriculum for them. So after that, I go into more the data and structure side. So my third pillar is structure. In that case, it's helping families like kind of create like their in-home learning environment, setting those expectations for the learning, because we can't always be in PJs all day,
You sometimes have to get dressed, although my 7-year-old is still in her pajamas.
Just helping to create that like learning environment, and also to develop those disciplines for later in life when they're in their professions. They know how to be professional in a setting where there are expectations and standards for them to follow. So that kind of just supports that side on the in-home education. And then if families would like help like creating their schedule for the day or for the week. And maybe some days have more learning or some days are outdoor exploring, like just helping to really craft a schedule that works for that family to make sure that the schooling is still taking place and they're on track. And then the fourth piece of that is the data collection. So depending on the state, families might have to send in grades and things. So I help families keep track of the grading portion so that way they can have the data and their quarterly assessments to show growth and progress.
Question, like as far as what you experienced in the public school system versus what you're experiencing now, can you talk a little bit about that? What have you seen that's been similar and what's been very different? And what have you liked and what have you not liked?
Yeah. Okay. So going from the public school system to in-home, I love how much less pressure there is in home. I love the fact that, I can focus on the education of the child and the creativity of my gift of being a teacher. And so I don't have to be consumed with all of the meetings, which of course my fourth pillar is accountability. So I do have meetings with families to help them understand where their students are at and how we can partner together to help continue their growth. But it's not the same as having 10 meetings every planned period of the day.
Yeah.
So that is something I've really enjoyed. Also, the fact that since the learning is individualized to the family and the student, that it doesn't always take, actually it never takes 8 hours a day to educate in that area. There are sometimes we can cover a whole, like something that might have taken a week in public schools, I can do that within a couple of hours with a student because it's so individualized and personalized. And I'm right there to support them along the process, leading them through like what we call the gradual release of responsibility, where I'm doing a lot of the work on the front end, but basically fostering their independence to do that skill. So it's a lot quicker one-on-one or one-on-two. Something that I loved in the public schools was my ability to reach out and to connect with families. And so now that I'm in the home, it's just another level of strong relationships. Like, it's not just hi, bye. It's like, no, I feel like I know my families. Like, being able to be a part of a lot of them, I feel like I get adopted. Like, these are like part of my family now. And I just get to really invest on such a deeper level with them, which is phenomenal. I would say another huge difference too, and this is something that is very counterculture, but there are a lot of public schools now, not all of them, but there are so many that have such an agenda that's being pushed and lots of agendas and almost to the point of like indoctrination of children. And it's like, are we developing critical thinking skills in a child or are we telling them what to think? And that honestly really changed way back in the early 1900s when Rockefeller basically bought the public school systems and said, I don't want a group of thinkers or a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers.
Like, I've talked about that. I'm like, this system was not set up so that we'll have critical thinking friends, like.
Right, which is really sad because if we don't have a society of thinkers, then how are we able to really activate our gifts and apply them in a larger society where you're actually making a difference and thinking about how we all work together at that point instead of it being like, well, I'm just here to push my opinions about something that aren't even research based. Like, what the heck? So that's like something that is huge for me is being in the homes. I know the family's mission and vision, and if they want me to teach that socialism is right, I'm like, I'm sorry, we are not the right fit for each other because that's not true. But if you go back in history and evaluate the consequences of that, it's actually very dangerous.
Scary. Let's look at everyone who's already tried it.
Right.
Not working.
I'm like, that's how I teach it. I'm like, you can experience what happened in history, and now let's draw some conclusions based on the logic and reasoning of this, So that's something that's really important. And I believe that, especially for a biblical education, that used to be the foundation of our education system. And when that was removed, the statistics show that once that a higher standard of living, and I would say of truth, once that was removed, it like became the teen pregnancies way high, crime rates really high, the academic achievement. We used to be number one the United States. We were number one in in the world on a literacy rate. And now we have a 19% illiteracy graduation, like functionally illiterate graduation rate. It's like, what in the world happened? Well, there was a removal of the standard of truth. And if we go all the way back to the beginning of the United States of America and we look at the original writings from our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, he was the founder of public education, of like our public education system. And he specifically, Benjamin Rush was what I meant to say. And he specifically stated the importance of having a standard of truth in the schools, and that we innately want truth. And that was in his, if anyone wants to look it up, it's his defense on the Bible in schools. And now we're at a place where people are like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. You can walk in your own truth. And it's like, well, again, have we evaluated the consequences of this kind of lifestyle? And who's trying to push their truth more than anyone? People who have a really big agenda, but don't have the facts, the data, to sustain or to defend the sustainability of that choice. It's very like, I have to yell so you'll hear me and I'll take your attention, instead of like, or we can evaluate this, which is what they used to do. It's like, come on, guys.
So, and it's true, because I talk to a lot of parents who are like, I don't like what's being taught. And everyone homeschools for different reasons, right? I mean, some people are like, no, my child, is not thriving in the system and they have ADHD and I need them to be able to be free, physically, to do what they need to do and run when they need to run. And then other people are like, no, I don't like the agenda, which I've talked to. There's a lot of people saying, no, there's no curriculum teaching that agenda. Well, there's pedagogy teaching it. It may not be curriculum, but pedagogy is, how they're teaching it. They're teaching certain things. And I've talked to teachers who some are being forced into retirement, and others who are like, I can't do this. And granted, it's not all schools, because there are some schools that teachers are still
solid morals,
solid morals, and they're right. But we're seeing it more and more and more. And those coming out of the teachers' colleges and out of the education programs are already being indoctrinated themselves. And so they're teaching what they know, which is not always great. But as far as what have you noticed with working with the families in home that has been a stark contrast for you as an educator, seeing especially a trauma-based school?
Yeah.
And being at a school full of trauma, because it's not trauma-based. Okay. We're basing our whole school on trauma. But like a school where you're dealing with a lot of kids with heavy trauma, like how has that been different for you as a teacher? Tell me a little bit about that.
Personally, I'm emotionally in a much more stable place. Being able to really set boundaries and make sure that I know what I need to be able to give. I'm able to just teach. And I will never wish away the experience that I had. And I loved those babies so hard and got to watch them grow. But I just know for me, sustainable, in the long term, that could have been more detrimental, just health-wise in the long run. Yeah. But now being in home and being able to set schedules with families, and it really helps to balance my time and my output. But also, I would say one of the biggest things is these families want their kids to think. They want their kids to thrive. And I'm not saying that wasn't the case for all of my families in school. No, but I just get to see it so much more, because it's in a lot of times in public schools, if there are children who are really suffering from a lot and just don't have that self-control yet, or haven't developed the skills, one person can ruin a whole lesson or 5 lessons a day. And classroom evacuations, that's how can you teach and educate if you're trying to protect, and so with my students now, just really getting to emphasize that one-on-one time to really develop their critical thinking skills, on a level that's so individualized and personalized. I have watched students grow. I mean, even I'm thinking of a family I had right now that started in May. They wanted to prepare for high school throughout the summer. And so because they do like an in-person homeschool co-op once a week, so they wanted to really get those writing skills. And after 1 2 hour session, our very first day, they went from saying, like, the question I had asked was, why do we research? And they're like, to find out information because we want to learn something. And I was like, okay, this is so surface, like, let's take it deeper. And I just,
Friends.
yes, took them on this journey of really getting to the root of the importance of research. And their eyes, it was like their eyes were just open and they were like, oh my gosh, wait, because we need to know the truth. Yes. It's like, when we know the truth and then we can discern when something's a partial truth or if it's just a total lie and what it's rooted in, what it's founded in. When they did start, they're going into the school, their ninth grade year, just started their ninth grade year, they pull out their history books and they're like, is this true? Are these not, what's it founded on? And I'm like, because we talked about that. Like, what are the sources? Are they original? Like the history books I use, they go back to the journals of the people who lived in our history, like Christopher Columbus. Oh, such a terrible modern day narrative of who he was. But when you go back and read the original sources, it's like, this man was such a gift and a hero to our nation. Not perfect, but show me someone who was other than Jesus. And guess what? Everyone crucified him. So it's like, it's like,
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
looking for perfection, but it's like looking at leaders and being able to learn from the bad, but still value and honor the contribution that people gave. Like, it's critical. And for these kids to have internalized the importance of finding the truth and knowing why it's true, like, it's teaching them discernment. So they're actually building deeper skills alongside of this learning process, which is, I mean, like, you can really capitalize on that in the home. And especially when that's what the family wants, then I'm like, okay, yeah, you want to go that deep? We'll go that deep. Here it
Hey,
comes.
now, so it's interesting to me because all the public schools say, like, and there's yet to be a public school that I haven't heard say this. They all say we partner with parents, which is not true because half the time you don't know most of the parents, and but in your case, you legitimately partner with the parents. Can you talk a little bit about like what it looks like with different families for you? Like you get into there, talk about that process and then what it looks like because not everyone is doing the same thing, correct?
Right. Yes. So going back to like what that family mission and vision is, so it's individualized. Every program is completely individualized for that family. So I might have a family who says, I want you to teach every subject, everything for the whole year. So in that case, I do like a year-long plan and we set the objectives and goals. And I do use the state standards of Colorado as like a baseline, but if a child is in third grade and they're operating on a sixth grade level, why would I hold them back? So it's like, I definitely, yes, want them to operate and grow from where they're at to where they can be within that time frame. And so we set those goals together. And then once we have this set for a family that wants me to teach everything, I'm developing that curriculum and teaching in home, about, depending on the family, either 4 to 8 hours a week. So
So
that
it's
would be for,
like 4 or 5 days or like every day for a couple hours or is it like 2 days? What does that look like?
great question. So for some families, it might be 3 days a week. I have 2 families where I'm 3 days a week. I have another family where I teach all of their curriculum and I'm 2 days a week with him, but we teach longer. I do longer hours with that family. And then I have some families that just want me to emphasize like two subjects. So I embed literacy in everything. That's part of my training from Oral Roberts, which I cannot talk enough about what my professors deposited into my life because it was so life changing. But literacy can be in everything, should be in everything that we do. And so I just embed that into like the core content, like history or science. So I have some families where I just teach like history and ELA, English Language Arts, and that's only 2 hours a week for that family. And then I have another family who just wants me to teach fantasies right now, how to write fantasies, because that's their interest. It's been so fun. I've probably read more than I have in like just for funsy reading, not like professional development reading, more in this unit than I probably have in like years. But like, so we're reading different fantasies as like mentor text, and I go into their home twice a month for 2 hours each. So that's only 4 hours a month with this family. So it really is individualized to what the families want. And then that's like for my in-home teaching, but for consulting, which is another thing service that I offer. I have a family in Arkansas who I did their family mission and vision so I could really understand what they wanted, help them to identify a curriculum that matched that. And then now what she does is take pictures of the lessons and she'll send them to me. And so I give her ways to modify the language of the curriculum to where it's still causing the child to really think the answers through and really engage her creativity. And this little girl, oh my gosh, she's in kindergarten, loves the world around her and is an explorer. So we really incorporate that into her curriculum. So that's more of a curriculum enhancement style.
Love that. Love that. So what have you noticed, like with the kids that homeschool versus what you taught in the public school? Do you see a difference in the kids? Like, how are they different?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. A lot of times I think in the public school, because there's so many kids in a classroom, every child anywhere, everywhere wants to be seen, known, loved, and to know that they belong. And in a classroom, it can be very easy for a child to get lost. And so like just kind of lost in the numbers and to where you don't have that personal relationship. So a lot of times you might know about the child and can see different character traits, but things can slip in understanding like what they know, what they don't know. And so academically, there are times where students can be prone to get behind in a public school setting and even that word itself, like what is behind, because there are situations where a child totally lost my train of thought there.
Getting behind. Like,
Yeah.
what does that really mean for one child? You know,
Right. So it's like for some, it's like academically. Oh, okay. Here's where I was going with that. Because when we say behind, are we saying they can't pass a test? Like, do they just not know how to pass a test? Because there are times where kids look on paper like they're excelling. But whenever you go in and actually start asking them questions about what they know, it's like there's no practical application of understanding. Or it's the other way around. Their test says these kids don't know anything and says they're behind. But when you go and have the conversation and say, show me how to work out this problem, and they can do it in front of you. It's just the language didn't transfer to a test language. And so it's like hard to tell sometimes academically where students are at because it's like based in the public school system that's so test oriented. And it's like, but so I would say that would be a major thing. And then two, sometimes in the public school system, there's more disconnect or they're robots because I'm going to sit still and I'm going to be in my chair. I think that's one of the biggest differences. I'm going to follow all the rules, but my character's not getting developed because you don't really know what my character is because I have to be a robot all day, and follow commands and do my work and I'm quiet all day long. Like that's not real learning. Whereas in the home, we can totally personalize it to the child. So it's like, we're going to be Christopher Columbus today. We're going to go explore and find new things. And what do we need to go on this exploration to somewhere that no one's ever been before? Like it's so interactive and the kid comes to life because all of a sudden they're invited into the learning process. They're able to ask whatever questions they want to ask. They're able to learn how to research for the things that of course I don't have all the answers. Like we got to look for it. Let's go find it and figure it out and see if it applies in real life. And so the exploratory, genuine learning process, or like the learning cycle, is what we called it a lot in college. Like they can go through that because the limitations of what learning looks like have been lifted. It's like now you can come alive.
I love that. So let's say a family decides they're like, yes, I want to supplement my kids' learning and have a teacher come in home, a couple times a week or once a week.
Yeah.
Cost wise, what does that look like? And how it like talk about that a little bit. Like, is it affordable for families to be able to do that if they're like, this is kind of the direction we want to go? and or we're at the beginning stages and we need a little bit of help, what would that look like financially?
That's a great question. So it's individualized more for what the families want. So if a family's just like, we just want some guidance, that would definitely, for these services that I offer, it would start with still the family mission and vision. Because if I don't know why, then I don't know I can't quite guide to the curriculum that's going to match that. So usually my initial consult is anywhere from 60 to 80, depending on how long they're like for that consult to be. And then that's more for my time to be in the home and to be supporting that process. And then if they choose to go more the in-home teaching route, depending on how many hours it can be, if we think, I mean, again, sorry, I'm just processing through this because it changes depending on how often I'm in the home. But let's say someone wants something every single week for a couple of hours, then it'd be anywhere between 400 to 600 for that. Or if somebody's like, we want you to do everything, then that's going to get higher up to like the 1,500.
That's per month, correct?
Per month, yes.
So, and then one thing, so for those of y'all listening, I had talked to Lydia about this earlier. One of the things that she's doing, and she does work remotely, correct?
Yes,
one of the things that she's doing is trying to help get other teachers involved in different areas of the country to do this as well as part of the company that she's created with Transforming Transforming Minds Education. Sorry about that. Transforming Minds Education. And so I think because I feel like right now, which is beautiful, because right now there are so many teachers who feel like their hands are tied or that they have to teach to the test, which is not why they got into teaching, or they have to navigate through agendas, or they have to navigate through politics within the school, or it's not safe anymore. You know, right. We're in Colorado where, let's be honest, we're known for school shootings, right? Which is terrible. And these teachers are also at risk, you know? And so one of the things that I love is that you're working on that. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect, that, because I know it's in the process still.
Right. Yes. So I am definitely building systems right now to increase the staffing on our team and to be able to really scale, because I noticed I hadn't even thought about that twice since I just started in April. I was like, okay, yeah, there's time. And then over the summer, my schedule booked out so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, to reach more families, I'm going to need more staffing. So I am currently in the process of building it to where my business can have employees, getting the legal things in place for that. And that being said, I'm looking for teachers who are very committed to this like lifestyle of, I want to teach in such a way that it's going to transform kids' lives for the better and for our community. So especially emphasizing teachers who are licensed, that is important for this, but who value truth and helping students to get to that point of truth, to understand how to teach, who want to use their creativity and really activate their own teaching gifts and be able to use that in homes. It's important to me to be able to really match teachers with families that really fit super well. I would like to, legally, I'm still learning all of the boundaries for this, but I'd like to have it to where every teacher can kind of set their own schedule. So it's not like you work 8 hours a day and then you have to grade papers all night, but it's like, no, you actually get to choose how much time you want to be in home versus enjoying your life. So that's a really big thing that I'm looking at right now. And then I also, service I didn't talk about, provide tutoring. So that's for any family. That can even be for families in the school systems that just need that extra support. Yeah. And so even teachers that are just like, I want something after hours, if they're still in the school system, because a lot of the teachers that I'm looking for are during the day. So people who have either retired or are just looking for another option than being in the school systems. But then for tutoring, that can be, a lot of times it is after school hours. So if a teacher just wants a side gig to be able to, without having to run all the business side of it, that would be a great teacher referral as well.
I love that so much. Well, and one of the things, yeah, because I always want, like, my objective has always been, as I started this podcast, to help parents leaving the school system and giving them as many options as they might need, because every family is so different. You and I had talked about this, that we are predominantly eclectic unschoolers, but not everybody wants to be an unschooler. And
Right.
there's those out there who are like, no, I think I need a little extra help, which is exactly what you offer, which is beautiful.
Right.
If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Great question. My email would be the number one way. I don't have a website up yet, but my email is Lydia, Lydia, at Transforming Minds, plural, education, .org.
Okay, and I will put that in the show notes as well, so that if anybody wants to reach out to Lydia or has questions about what that looks like, or any teachers who might be listening who are like, I have to do something different because this is not okay anymore. Like, it's too much. It's too much, and I'm not
Right.
getting paid enough for this, right? Like, any of those teachers can reach out to Lydia as well. So, any last thoughts before we close up for today, Lydia?
I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be on here and just sharing. And I just want to encourage families who are in this navigating phase of going from all the school being done for them to now they have to do all the school. And I just want to say there's so much hope. And to give you the affirmation of like, honestly, you're making such a beautiful decision for your family because you get to create that atmosphere that is so personalized to your child's education, and just to say like, yes, it feels overwhelming, but not to feel like you have to do everything in a day, like one step at a time. And I love to say this too, like especially for families, if you believe in God, if that is like your avenue, like if he's asked you to do it, there are so many families telling me now like, God told me to homeschool and I have no clue what I'm doing. And I would just want to say, like, when you take steps of obedience, he always provides. And so just be encouraged by that and know that the right people and resources will come to your life.
I love that. And it's true. And I've had more and more moms reach out saying, yeah, I feel called to do this. Like, and
Yeah.
I can't ignore it anymore.
Right.
And we can't. Like, if we are called to do it, if God calls us and says this is what you need to do, then we leave our nets and we follow.
Right.
So thank you so much. Again, if you want to get a hold of Lydia, it's going to be in the show notes, but it's Lydia, Lydia, at Transforming Minds, with the plural, education.org. Is that
Yep.
correct? Make sure that's right. So thank you so much for coming on the program. Families, moms, I know you're stressed. I say this every week. I know that you worry, and Mondays come around and go, are they learning anything? But you are doing better than you think you are.
Yes.
And it's better with you than it is in the system. Moms, you got this. You're doing great. With that, we'll see you next week.